So hi everybody, the stream should be up now. Having some technical difficulties, but should be all good now. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about sports. Sports is a very common topic. It doesn't matter which exam you're taking, such as IELTS. So we're going to go through a lot of things that you would need to know to do well if you get a topic about sports. And sports is, or the topic of sports, is quite common as everybody likes it. Maybe not everybody, but many people like to watch it. Other people like to participate. So we're going to talk about first some key words you need to know. So if you are watching sports, if you like sports, you are called a fan or a bunch of fans, so F-A-N. But a better word would be spectators. So spectators, they spectate, they watch something. So these are the two key words that you could use when you're talking about people that are enjoying sports. Now, in general, they would just be called people. They might be called supporters, right? Or they might be called the audience. And those words are perfectly fine, however, it's quite general. And whenever you have a topic, you want to try to use the topic-related vocabulary. And if you get a topic about sports, the word fans or spectators would be much better in that situation. So they all mean the same thing. It's just that if the topic is sports, try to use these two words instead. Pretty simple, I hope. Maybe not. Any questions, please ask me. Now, fine. Now, what are the fans or spectators? What are they watching or spectating? Now, this question becomes a lot more difficult to understand. Excuse me. Becomes a lot more challenging as each sport may have a different name. But generally, we can call them games. We might call them matches. Right? You might, you want to watch the basketball game? Do you want to watch the tennis match? So some of the sports have different words. Overall, they have these. In addition to that, though, you can also talk about different kinds of games or matches. So in most sports, they have blocks of time or different rounds. So I'll give you some examples. In baseball, so I'm going to erase this, sorry. In baseball, they have something that breaks up each part of the game, and they are called innings. If you watch basketball, they play for, I think it's 12 minutes for each period. Or sorry, they don't call them periods. Sorry, basketball, they call them quarters. Sorry. They call them quarters, so they have 4 quarters. So if you're listening or watching something about basketball, they may say, in the second quarter, that guy scored 10 points, as an example. So they have quarters. In hockey, they have 3 periods. In tennis, depending on the format, it's a best of 3 or 5 sets. So you'll notice that each game has a specific time frame or a specific way to cut up each portion of the game. So that's why it's so complicated to talk about sports in a specific manner. Look, each game seems to have a different way to talk about it. If you ask me, I don't even know how cricket works, as an example, or rugby. Excuse me. How does rugby work? I'm not sure. I'm not that familiar. So even if you ask me, as a native English speaker, to tell you how those games are cut up or divided, I wouldn't be able to tell you. My point is that if you get a sports topic, try to think about the sports that you like, maybe 1 or 2, and then focus on those ones. You are not, I want to make this clear, you're not required on any English exam to know, in baseball there are innings, in basketball there are quarters, in hockey there are periods. There's no exam like that. However, if you do get a topic about sports, and you want to clearly demonstrate that you have good sports knowledge or sports-related vocabulary, then I would choose one or two to learn about. So if you like tennis, then you should learn the vocabulary related to tennis, as an example. Or if you like basketball, you should learn the vocabulary related to basketball. So then you can talk about it, right? Like in the IELTS exam, they might ask you, oh, describe a hobby you like. Well, I really enjoy playing basketball. I always have a lot of energy in the first quarter, but then sometimes near the end of the game, usually in the fourth quarter, I'm really dead tired. There's lots of different ways that you can work in the language, how you can utilize it, and you should definitely take advantage of that. Okay? So, innings for baseball, and you can see the rest here. Find the sport that you like. Find out some of this stuff, and then you'll be able to do much better during the exam. Okay. Let's talk about the people who play the game. This is another very important part when you're describing sports. So, usually we would just call them players, right? You would call people players, and they might be players. Like in tennis, they're called tennis players, right? Hockey players, basketball players, baseball. They're all players, but that's the general term because we can use that for every single sport. In sports, usually, especially in team sports, there are positions. Nice question from Rita. How to describe one team won by the last point at that moment? What comes to mind if somebody wins right at the last moment? Depends on the sport. For example, if it's basketball or hockey or soccer, we would call that a buzzer beater. A buzzer beater. The buzzer, because at the end of the game, there's a sound that buzzes, right? It goes, right? You get this alert, something like that, to tell you and signify to everybody that the game has finished. So if you score like right at the last moment, it beat the alarm. It just was quicker than the end of the game. So we call that a buzzer beater. Table tennis. Okay, in table tennis or volleyball, this is a very specific question, Rita, then that is just a match point. So for example, if you're playing table tennis and you are at 19 to 18 and you're serving, if you get to 20, then you win. This would be match point, as an example. So if it's time-based, it's called a buzzer beater because you beat the timer right at the end. You score with 0.2 seconds remaining. That's definitely a buzzer beater. If it's a point-based game, like tennis, table tennis, or volleyball, then it's called match point. Good question. Very good question. Okay, now, talking about the positions in the games, if you play soccer as an example, you can say that they're soccer players or football players. However, if you want to score better, you should be more specific. So generally in soccer, you have 4 positions. You have people that are strikers. Those are the people in the front trying to score. You're very welcome, Rita. Then you also have midfielders. So those are the people in the middle of the field. Then you have defenders. And then the person at the end who's protecting this thing, they try to shoot the ball into the goal, into the net. We have different names for this person. We call them a goalie. We can call them a goalkeeper. We can call them a netminder. So lots of words for this person. So you'll notice, just as an example, in the game of soccer, look how much specific vocabulary there is related to the game. It's difficult to remember, right? Though, if you're able to produce it, you'll be able to score much better on any test. Once again, it could be difficult to learn all these, but I mean, it's not that many. So try to stick to a sport, and then you can learn some of the positions. I'll give you one more example of positions in sports. So here's a sport that I like. Let's talk about hockey for a second. The sport that I like, oops, my mic just fell off, just flew off. Give me one moment here. Yeah, so the one sport I enjoy quite a bit is hockey. So in hockey, you have five. Is it five? You have left wing. You have center. You have right wing. You have defense or defenseman, and then you have the goalie. Same thing as this. So once again, another sport. 5 very specific terms that only someone that really follows the sport and has a good command of the English language would be able to use. So pick a sport, learn the positions, and then if you have to write a letter, for your test about what sport you like, or you need to talk about what sport you enjoy playing, you can say, I really enjoy playing hockey. I am a goalie. Right? Or I really like to play baseball. I am the pitcher. So you gotta learn some specific language, because if you just say, I play baseball, and I play baseball, and playing baseball is fun, I mean, you'll score very low like that. So try to think of something specific, and then you'll do much better. Okay, very good. So those are just some examples. I don't know what sport you guys or girls like to play. You can let me know in the chat. I can describe those more if you'd like. Otherwise, you can go online, just type in positions of whatever the sport is. Positions of whatever the sport is. So you can just go on the internet, type into some search engine, positions of tennis. Actually, there aren't any. Positions of hockey, right? Positions of baseball, and then you'll be fine. Now, you need to also talk about where you play these games. Where do you play these sports? So the venue and the location is also quite essential, because unfortunately in English they're all different. So if you play soccer or football, then you play them on a soccer field or pitch. If you play tennis, then you play it on a tennis court. If it's basketball, then you play on a basketball court. If you play hockey, you actually play on an ice rink. If you play baseball, you play on a baseball diamond. So once again, here's another big example where if you have no idea what the sport is, there's no way you would know that, look, pitch, court, field or pitch, court, rink, diamond. They're all different. Baseball, you can also play on the baseball field. That's also okay. Field is also possible. But you can understand my point. Even a simple question, like where do you play, can be very, very difficult and complex if you have no idea. I've talked to many students where they play lots of sports, but generally, other than basketball, if you say, hey, you're going to play tennis, where do you play? They're not sure. They guess. Maybe it's a tennis court. If they play soccer, they're not even sure. So you have to know where you're playing. Such a simple question is something that is expected that you can answer. So think about the W questions. Who, what, where, when, why, and sometimes how. Think about how you would answer those questions. If you cannot think of specific vocabulary, then it's probably going to be very difficult for you to score well on the exam. So I helped you just now with the who, right? The names of the players, the wheres, what sport, those sorts of things. So definitely these words are essential if you want to score well. Now you have to check up on your game. So if you like swimming, obviously you're at the swimming pool. If you like table tennis, like what Rita just mentioned, then where are you playing? Well, it's not a table tennis court, right? It's so tiny. That's just a table tennis table, but you usually play in a hall, right? I don't know where you play. You might play in a sports complex. So if you're talking about something that is more general, you might be playing in a sports complex or a sports center. Those are where lots of other sports can be done. If you like to run, around, you like to do 100, you like to do the 100-meter dash, right? You might be doing it in these places. So there's lots of different sports that can go on in these places. There aren't many other words for this. I mean, you can call them facilities as an example, but generally that's where you would play table tennis as an example. Helen is asking about the specific clothes. Very good question. You guys make my life interesting. Okay, let's talk about the clothes. Oh my gosh. So, in every sport, there's different kinds of jerseys. There's different kinds of equipment and attire. So we call it equipment and attire. Attire is a high-level word for clothing, but that's what we call it. We call it sports attire. We can call it sports clothing, but attire is more common. So, if you play soccer or any sport where you have a team, what you wear is something called a jersey. So the jersey usually looks something like this, and it has your number on it, right? And you wear it, that's a jersey. So if you play basketball, you're wearing a basketball jersey. If you play soccer, it's a soccer jersey. I want to make this clear. Never use the word uniform. So I'll say it again. Never use the word uniform. It is not a uniform. Working at McDonald's, you get a uniform. Playing soccer for $10 million a year, that is not a uniform. That's a jersey. Okay? So just make that clear. That is not a uniform. So if you say something like a baseball uniform, it doesn't make sense. People will laugh at you. It's not a uniform. It is a jersey. In addition to some of the attire they're wearing, or at least for their body, for their shoes, they're usually wearing cleats. So if you're playing soccer, as an example, sorry, my horrible drawings, it's picture time, horrible drawings, you'll notice that their shoes have these little spikes, so it helps them not slip as much, so they like to wear cleats as an example. If you're playing other sports, they just wear normal shoes. They wear basketball shoes, right? Tennis shoes. So a lot of the other sports, they just have the sports name and then shoes. If you're playing hockey, then obviously they have something else. So these are called skates, right? They're not shoes, they're skates. Oh my gosh, so many questions. The punishment. Okay, let's finish off with the equipment first. Time for Pictionary. Pictionary is much more fun than what we're doing right now. So lots of things. I'll just go through the most basic ones so you know. In soccer, there isn't much equipment, right? It's just a soccer ball. In basketball, there's no equipment, right, other than the basketball net. For hockey, they have this, right? This is called a hockey stick. You guys, I teach English. I don't draw horrible drawings for a living, but I guess I need to add that to my resume. So it is a hockey stick. If you play tennis, This is a tennis racket. If you play table tennis, the same thing, table tennis racket, right? Oh, sorry, table tennis is a paddle. Sorry, I said it wrong. For table tennis, it's a table tennis paddle. Yeah, we'll call it a paddle. Okay, so that's it for most of the equipment. I mean, there's a lot more equipment in each sort of sport, like baseball and hockey. I could spend 9 hours talking about it. What I suggest that you do, instead of looking at my horrible, ugly, grotesque, hideous drawings, is that you go online, find the sport that you like, and then type in what kind of equipment they have. And then it'll show all the pictures and give you all the language. And then just learn those words, you'll be able to use them appropriately. Okay, so Rita's asking, the punishment. Okay, so yes, okay, let's go to the punishment part. These are great questions, by the way. I did not think of punishments in sports. So, if you're playing soccer or football, there's lots of different kinds of punishments, but generally, if you do something wrong, then you'll get the yellow card. If you do it again, or if the first time is a very serious offense, then you'll get a red card. But you probably already know that because, you know, the referee goes, right, the guy controlling the game, he goes, you know, here's the yellow card, right? So you probably already know that. Now, there are other words for penalties. We don't just use the word penalty or punishment. Usually we use the word penalty. We don't use the word punishment. So it's very strange if you say, he did something wrong, so he's going to get a punishment. It's technically correct, but punishment is a very general term. In sports, we almost always use penalty. So I want to make this clear. If you are talking about a sport and you use the word punishment in sport, it is very strange. It's okay, it's just odd. Okay, so I wouldn't use this. We usually use penalty. Squash racket. Yes, if you play squash, it is a racket. Yes. I only played squash one time in my life. It was like 10 years ago. So, every time I was trying to hit the ball, I felt like I was going to hit my friend in the head. So I never played it again. But in sports, usually we use the word penalty. Another word that you could use is infraction. So it means the same thing. There is an infraction or penalty. So these two words are used more often in sports than punishment. Depending on what you play, you can also have what we call violations. So I know in soccer there's violations. In tennis they have time violations as an example. So this is another word, violation. But we don't use this word as often. The two most common ones are penalty and infraction. Now, if you pay attention to sports, there's lots of weird penalties and weird and odd infractions. So I can tell you about, as an example, like baseball. In baseball, in the past, if you go back 100 years ago, people would actually spit on the ball. And when they threw the ball was very difficult to predict how the ball would move because it had spit on it. So actually, in the last 10 or 20 years ago, some people have tried cheating by spitting on the balls and things like that. So you can't do that. That's a penalty. Spitting on the ball is a penalty in baseball. So it almost never happens, but it is a strange penalty that doesn't happen. In hockey, you can actually trip people. So you can take your stick and hit their legs and then they fall down. That's a tripping penalty. Okay, so in each sport they have different kinds of penalties and infractions. Just check the sport. Check the one that you like the most. I don't even know what a penalty would be in squash. I have absolutely no idea. I would have to go on the internet and search for it. Any other questions? We've gone through a lot of stuff. Any other questions? If so, please let me know. I'm just, for the last part, if there aren't any other concerns, hi Sammy, if there are no other concerns, I'm going to talk to you about some specific terms about why people play sports. So, usually, why people play sports is they say they want to be healthy. This is a very horrible word. You cannot say this. Instead, you say that you want to be robust. You want to be robust. Robust means you have a healthy body. Okay? So make sure, if you want to use the word healthy, you use the word robust. Okay? You don't say healthy. Healthy is very general. If I want to talk about healthy food, healthy is a horrible word. So this is about the body. I don't use healthy. I use nutritious. So this example clearly shows you why general vocabulary cannot get you a high mark on any English exam. It doesn't tell me very much about your vocabulary. I can say anything is healthy. I can say the book is healthy, I can say the dog is healthy, I can say whatever is healthy. But if I'm talking about the body, I should use the word robust. If I'm talking about food, I would use the word nutritious. So this is a very key distinction that you need to be able to draw. Sorry, oh yeah, draw a distinction. Yes, very, very good collocation. In addition to that, I'm going to erase all these penalties. Some keywords you need to learn about your health, about why you exercise, is you want to improve your stamina. You want to improve and enhance and boost your stamina. Stamina means energy level. How long you can maintain your energy. So for example, maybe when you run the first time, you can only run for 1 minute and then you get immediately exhausted. If you have more stamina, you can run for 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes, for instance. So stamina is a very good word. It's a much better word instead of energy. So you can use stamina. Okay? It's always a noun, it's nothing else. So learn this word stamina. You also do it because you want to improve your strength. Strength is a common word, however, it is a topic-related word related to sports and exercise. So definitely you want to improve your strength. You also want to improve your endurance. Endurance is the same meaning as stamina, so like your energy. You want to be able to improve your lung capacity. So your lung capacity, so some people actually go to the gym a lot. They might work out, they play lots of sports, and they're really strong, they got lots of muscles. However, if they don't run a lot, their lung capacity generally is quite low. So lung capacity means how much you're able to breathe. So if you're able to have more lung capacity, you can actually breathe longer without getting tired. It would be like if you could run longer. You can run longer, basically. So you want to improve your lung capacity. Last word I will teach you, and this is absolutely true. When you do a lot of exercise, you will also boost your mental, now you might say strength, ability, acuity. I'm going to teach you this word, acuity. Acuity, in this sentence, or in this phrase, mental acuity, means your ability to think. So, there are lots of words that you could use here about the general benefits of playing sports. You should learn some of these. So you can say, oh yes, I really enjoy playing baseball. I'm a third baseman on my community team, and I play 2 times a week. And also, I have found that it really boosts my stamina and endurance and really allows me to use my mental acuity outside of the game as well. Yes, you can do yoga to improve flexibility. Definitely. Flexibility is a good word. Because you mentioned it, I'll give you another word for flexibility. Flexibility, another word is agility. So if you become, this is the noun, if you have more flexibility, it means you have more agility. You have become more agile or flexible. Flexible is the adjective of flexibility. Agile is the adjective of agility. Yes, you can do yoga. Yoga has lots of other benefits as well, right? It helps with concentration, meditation, helps with breathing. So there are lots of different advantages and upsides to doing any sport. So once again, I will say it again, sorry to sound like a broken clock, you can go on the internet, search for whatever sport or activity you like, and look for the advantages of doing it. And they're going to tell you with specific words, right, what you can do. What is the benefit of doing this activity? And you're going to see all these really specific words come up. And if you use it on the exam, you're going to score really, really high compared to otherwise. You have to remember that sports is a very, very common thing in all societies. It doesn't matter which country you go to. Sports and exercise are everywhere. This is a multi-billion-dollar business anywhere you go. And so these topics come up all the time, both in writing and speaking tasks. And even if it doesn't, they ask you things like, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? And then you can still introduce it into the topic, even though it's not directly related to sports. So it happens all the time. Okay, any last questions? I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you an idiom, and then we're going to be done for today. So in sports, if you have to use an idiom, definitely the best one would be no pain, no gain. So you may already know about this, maybe you don't. No pain, no gain. It just means that because when you're working out, it actually hurts your muscles. Your muscles will get tired. You will get muscle fatigue. But then that actually means that your muscles are growing in mass and in size, which means it's actually gaining in size and strength. So that's where the phrase or the idiom, no pain, no gain, comes from. And you can apply this to sports as well as any other situation, right? Working hard, you can get a gain, but working hard can be painful. So if you don't work hard, then there is no benefit. You must work hard to get the benefit. So this is a general idiom. I shouldn't say it's a general idiom. It's a sports idiom that you can use in any general way. It can be used in any topic. Okay, well, tonight's class has gone on a bit longer than usual, and that's perfectly fine. Any other concerns? This one too common. Yes, it is common. You're right, Sammy. I have a very good question for you. And anybody else in the chat room. When was the last time you used it in an English exam? So it may be common, but it is related to the topic, and if you need to produce topic-related vocabulary, then you're going to have that. So I'm a little bit curious, have you ever used this on any English exam? If you have, great. I can teach you a few more, but they're a little bit more difficult to use, so I don't mind. For example, never. Yeah, so even though it's common and you know about it, you probably don't use it. I can give you some other ones. As an example, I can teach you about the front runner. Front runner means the person who is in the lead. So if there's a competition, it's not over yet, it's still continuing. The person in first place is the front runner. So you could use this, but I think the ability or the chance for you to use is quite low. Right off the bat, I like this one. Right off the bat, so in baseball, the play begins once the batter hits the ball. So once the ball is off the bat, then the game begins. So it's called right off the bat. This just means right at the beginning. You might be able to use that one. That one, yeah, maybe you can use it, maybe you can't. You can say par for the course. So if you play golf, par is a score of 0. So that is a very good score. That is the standard. So if something is par for the course, it means it is the standard. So for example, if you have to score 80% on the test to pass, and the guy got 80%, you might say, oh, well, that's good. That's par for the course. You met the standard, right? Or maybe the standard is bad. Maybe your employee always comes to work late, and then, oh, Jim came to work late again. That's the standard he has. You might say, well, that's pretty par for the course for Jim. There are lots of different idioms that you can use for sports. I just gave you the one, even if it's common, is the one that you could definitely use at any time. So that's why I gave it to you. All idioms, so Miss Hugh, wow, so many U's. All idioms can be used in any situation as long as they're correct. For example, you know the idiom about, well, you probably know the idiom about something being easy. It's a cakewalk. It's a piece of cake. It's fine. You can use it in any situation. However, I want to make this clear, however, certain idioms are better in certain situations. So if you are having a sports-related topic, it would be better to have a sports idiom. It would be better. However, if you have another idiom and it's not related to the topic, it's still very good. I want to make this clear. Idioms are good, especially in informal settings for writing and speaking. They're even better if they're topic related. I hope that answers your question. Jeez. Okay. Jeez, stupid cough. Anyways. Alright, so I guess we're finished for tonight. If there's anything else, you can always ask. I'm very happy to answer your questions or concerns. You know where to reach me. You can send me some messages online. If not, then I guess we're going to be finished for the night. So it's good to see you all again. Lots of interactivity, so I'd like to see that. Next week, let me know what you want the topic to be. Yeah, you're very, very welcome, Miss Hugh. Let me know what you want the topic to be. Could be sports again. I could talk about sports again. Geez. It could be anything. Please let me know. And I will see you next week. So toodaloo. Bye for now. I need to go. Good night, everybody.